So, thank you very much for coming, and good evening and welcome to the Italian Cultural Institute. My name is Nicola Locatelli and I am the director of the Institute. Before we start, I will just play a short video as an introduction. So, thank you once again for coming. Tonight's event has been, as you know, organized on the occasion of the 8th edition of the Italian Design Day, which is a yearly initiative by the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation and Ministry of Culture in collaboration with ADI, the Association for Industrial Design, and ICE, the Italian Trade Agency. And in particular, the event tonight has been made possible by the Embassy of Italy in Vienna. So thank you to Ambassador Giovanni Pugliese, to Gabriele De Stefano and Valeria Gravagno. And the Viennese section of the Italian Trade Agency, so thanks to Director Corrado Cipollini. And I'm also grateful to two people in particular that made this event possible. That is Mauro Bonizzoni at Lanzavecchia plus Y Studio, as well as Thomas Traxler at Mischer Traxler Studio. So tonight we're going to hear a conversation between the Italian designer Francesca Lanzavecchia and Austrian designer Katharina Mischer, moderated by Italian-Austrian independent curator Alice Stori Liechtenstein. Thank you all. About making the intangible tangible. After the talk, A small exhibition of objects by Francesca will be on display in the next room, thanks to the MAK, Museum für angewandte Kunst, where the objects are usually on display. And for this, I'm very grateful to Susanne Schneeweiss and Hannah Jäckel. Lastly, you are all invited to stay and chat with us over food and wine after the talk. I hope you'll enjoy the event, and I'm handing over to Alice to introduce the talk and introduce our two guests. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Buonasera, schönen Abend. It's nice to be here with all of you. And I'd like to start by introducing our guest. So Francesca Lanzavecchia, she's from Pavia, and she first graduated at the Politecnico and then went on to Design Academy, where she graduated with distinction in the master in 2008. She started her own studio with Hun Wai pronouncing it right, in 2010, and the studio was in Pavia and Singapore, which I think sounds very good for Pavia to be, on the same level of such an international destination. You work in industrial design. You do also a lot of installations. You worked with very important companies, Italian companies such as Zanotta, but you've also worked with fashion brands like Tod's and Hermes. And Francesca's and Hun's work has been exhibited in various museums, such as the Triennale in Milan, for example. And you've also received Red Dot Awards and many other recognitions. So we're very happy to have you here. What is also important to say is, independently of what kind of work you do, you always try to tell a story. So your products always have a real narrative element. And this is something that we can also say about Katharina. So Katharina Mischer, you're Austrian, and you are one half of Mischer Traxler Studio. So we also have Thomas here in the audience. You studied first at Kingston College, and then went on to Design Academy, where you met Francesca. So you both graduated in the same year, 2008. You also founded your studio soon after here in Vienna, and like Francesca, you work on a very wide range of products. I think the projects you're most famous for as a studio are probably the installations. You're very good at mixing craft and technology. And what I also find always very interesting is how you give nature a voice. So there's also a lot of storytelling there. So we'll find out a little bit more about both of you and your work in a minute. I'm supposed to be introducing myself as well, because I'm also in the design world, not just as a moderator. So this is me, and this is two pictures of Schloss Holleneck. So I'm Italian from Bologna, but I've lived in Austria now for 21 years, and I always say that although I'm not Austrian, I'm already a Styrian. So I've been adopted by Steiermark. I feel very at home, and this castle is in the family of my husband. It's been in the family of my husband for 200 years now, and we have turned it into a residency for designers and an exhibition space. So what we do there is every year we have an exhibition in May, so coming up soon. And what we do is we bring contemporary design objects in the historical rooms of, oops, sorry. Can I go back?
Yeah, I think the one
in the historical rooms of the castle. So this is part of the work that I do as a curator. I also work as an independent curator for other institutions. So, for example, I've done an exhibition on the 200 years of Lohmeyer at the MAK, which was last year in June. So, now let's get to our guests, which are very much more important, and we'll start with Francesca. So we have the Salone coming up. That's the most important design event in our yearly calendar. The Salone del Mobile is where all the designers meet, is where they present the new projects. It's not just the fair, of course. There's a very large Fuori Salone. So maybe I'll pass on the power to you, and you can tell us a little bit about what you are preparing and what projects you're working on and what's happening.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction, and thank you to the Istituto Italiano della Cultura and to Italian Trade Agency for tonight, for having me here and having me here with people I love. It's true, I've been studying industrial design first at Politecnico in Milano, but then I formed myself in the Design Academy Eindhoven in the Masters. That's where I met Katharina, and where we studied industrial design, conceptual design in context. And that's probably where our need of telling more through our projects came out. So my mission has always been to bring poetry, to bring lightness, to bring humor into the industry. And I like to do so at different scales, being it product design, all the way to interiors and installation. So as you mentioned, I do collaborate with galleries, museums, but mostly with the industry, so through furniture design or through showcases. For instance, here there's an example of the windows we create with the Lanzavecchia for Hermes. In the room next to us, you're gonna find this project is a project that tells a lot about my approach to products, and like how I've always been considering them extension of our body and beings. So we do use product to enhance our ability to live the world and to enhance our strength, and I like to look at them as if they were real mates, as if they were there for taking care of us instead of us taking care of the objects. So this was actually the second Salone. Me and Han participated in the Salone Satellite. It's a beautiful showcase that allowed all designers from the world to exhibit next to big name brands, and you just have to present a project and being accepted or not. And it felt a bit a bit empty to me to present just, another piece of furniture back then. And I did my thesis, master thesis at Design Academy in Eindhoven about prosthetics, and back then I broke my foot, and I started to use the cane that was originally designed for my grandma. And that cane became a collection of home accessories for the elderly. Unfortunately, this collection never had an exit. Like, I never managed to get it produced by a brand, even though there were several brands interested. But it's not fashionable enough for a furniture brand, and it's too daring for an elderly brand. But the same spirit of No Country for Old Men is actually something that I have in the back of my mind. So this idea of really making design accessible, design for everyone. And it's also something that underlines my work, our work, throughout every time that we start a collaboration also with the industry. So this, for instance, was a chair designed is a chair designed for Zanotta. It's called Nena, and was the nickname that my daughter was giving herself. She was just 1 year old, and it's somehow like mimicking the uneasiness she had at to step. It's a dynamic chair, but actually it has inside a lot of the thinking. So Zanotta wanted an upholstered chair, but to the Asian market, a upholstered chair need to be open back. Mm-hmm. For the American market, it need to be wide enough. And for an elderly person, it need to be sturdy and easy to get off. So it's a chair that by itself looks more like maybe a woman on a pair of a stiletto, but has a lot hidden behind it. And it's a lot about how I look at objects as extension of ourselves and I mean, mates we live with. So you're right, it's a very busy time of the year. We are actually working on several projects that are going to be launched inside the Salone and outside the Salone. When I finished Design Academy, I decided to go back to Italy because I found there was so many amazing workshops. So what I really found proud and enjoyed was to start to work with the craftsmen there. And actually, you usually get confronted with the super fine photograph of beautiful furniture on a white background in a beautiful interior, but the reality behind it is a lot more dirty and hands-on, and it's made of trial and error, and it's really happening in a craft way. And that's really the excitement, like the exciting part of it. The process is never going straight. And what I do is to go, when someone asks if we want to collaborate, I really want to enter the context of production and try and understand what their specialties, what the material are about, and how can they be tweaked and changed. How can I turn metal, which is cold and smelly, into something sensual and colorful? How can I make glass flexible? Or that's a question that I ask myself and I ask the craftsmen I work with. So we are currently busy with several products, and we hope it's going to be a great salone. So I'm really looking forward to it, and really hope some of you...
So this is obviously just a little preview because we cannot reveal too much. Otherwise, no one is going to come to Milan. So this is just to give us a little bit of a teaser.
Also of the idea of what it means, a work in progress. Mm-hmm. So working with a variety of craftsmen onto many different products. And this is a project I'm showing is just to show you.
I love this picture because it really looks like you're having a lot of fun.
We loved it. We loved each other. It was love at first sight. So that was a project commissioned by the Biennale del Mosaico in Ravenna, and there's always so much to learn from the craftsmen. And this is really a project that was done together with the mosaic workshop I was assigned to, and I wanted to do something at a scale closer to architecture, but then Arianna of Coco Mosaico, she was looking at me and saying, please don't make me work too hard. So that's where we found a way to create this beautiful and big texture through just shaping the tiles in the shape of this trunk from the rainbow eucalypt. Mm-hmm. It's inspired as a pattern inspired by the rainbow eucalypt. And actually the tesserae are only few, and they are most of the surface is actually covered with the cement, colored cement, and we created a beautiful texture together. So that's the sort of chemistry that I love to create and to work together at a project that everyone feels it's his own. This is some of the windows for Hermes. Again, I put together with the verde sospeso because they have the same sort of natural inspiration, botanic inspiration. But in this case, the Hermes asked all the people and all the artists who are going to design the windows for the next year, they set a topic, and this topic was about astonishment, like finding the astonishing into everyday. And in this case was a series of windows where, as early explorers or botanic club, we reinvented botanic species out of, in most of the cases, we managed to reuse some of their leathers or textile and mixing it with light and other things. So it's in this case is a story that comes from the brand and gets an interpretation.
So this
by
is really
the
like a
studio.
scenography kind of thing.
It's really a scenography. It's something you would like people to interact with, even if you know no one is really going to touch it. And this is the last project I can tell you, I can give you a sneak peek of, and it speaks also of a project made through many hands. Is actually maybe the first time I hear of a project from 5 studios to create one single scenography. And this is gonna turn into a non-profit organization, and it's a Mediterranean outpost, a theater where we wanna show and showcase the craftsmanship of Mediterranean countries. It's made in collaboration with We Design Beirut. Unfortunately, We Design Beirut couldn't happen this year because all the war they have, and it's gonna fly to Milano, go back to Beirut, and next stops are gonna be in Marseille and all Mediterranean countries. And it's gonna, we're gonna add...
It's a traveling exhibition.
It's a traveling exhibition where the content is actually created in each place.
So it's going to be different in each place it's going to go.
So it's going to add, we worked a lot with textile, with embroideries, so in each place it's going to get one bit, one portion of the locality. So, and that's going to be in the Fuori Salone.
So this is going to be in Milan as well?
Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. So we'll pass on now to Katharina. And I mean, the theme of the evening is this idea of making the intangible tangible. So you've told us a lot about different stories and different ideas and how you bring them into a product. And maybe, Katharina, you can also tell us a little bit through your work how you see this idea of storytelling and how you bring an idea into a product, something tangible.
Yeah, coming here, I talked to Thomas, because it's not just me, it's Thomas as well in the studio, and we're normally a team of 4 people. And we discussed what to bring to the talk about tangibility and intangible. And generally, our studio has a broad focus. From the smallest thing we ever did was a jewelry piece, and the biggest thing we ever did was a art installation in old people's home, like in a yard, spanning meters by meters. So, like, our scale is very hard to, like, describe. But I picked, for example, a project that is one of our oldest. It's one of our graduation projects, but it's still ongoing. It's called Relimited. It's a project that tries to visualize endangered species in Austria, like any other country in the world. There are many species already on the list of endangerment, and we try to focus on those species that are not cute as a cuddling toy, but actually as equally value for ecosystems. So we portray endangered species as objects that you can have at home, and normally it's a limited edition based on how many species are still alive in the real nature around us. So, for example, for the moth lamp, it's always a species where the biologists, they estimate it's about 1,000 individual per breeding cycle. I mean, with moths, it's a bit hard to say because it's a short lifespan. And based on that, we can make about 4 to 5 clustered lamps. And when you look at the details, you actually see that each moth has a number carrying on their back, representing one that is still there in reality. So it's this idea of like using a limitation to tell the story of limitations that occur in reality and making that tangible. But as well, we believe that every object that we own and have and that surrounds us, all of them tell a story, and sometimes the stories are very visually easy to grasp, but sometimes it's difficult to grasp, especially how things are made and what somebody thought about it. And sometimes we even try to put more information into the objects, and this is, for example, a glass series. We worked in Murano on an exhibition about various drinking vessels, and we picked water as the main source of life. And it's a series of 6 glasses, and each glass represents a region on the planet, and the top part, the clear glass, represents how much drinking water is easily accessible, and the lower part actually shows how difficult it is to get. And on a plate, like if you would have a dinner, 6 people together, if you are lucky, you get the North American, European glass, because then it's quite full. But if you get Sub-Sahara, you need to refill your glass more frequently to actually make a feeling, because often we read statistics and we are encountering numbers all day long, but to make it feasible to what that actually means compared to somewhere else, it's what we try to bring in some projects. And a very new project that we are soon installing is talking about rain. Of course, rain is very tangible and we see it quite often, but we hardly consider rain, and it's a really vital, important something. Without rain, no drinking water. And the project is this idea that you can stand underneath a cloud and you look up, you don't get wet, but you can appreciate each little drop that comes down, to consider what the weather around us and how important natural cycles are.
And where is this?
In Hamburg. It's actually going to be at the Kunst- und Gewerbemuseum in Hamburg as a permanent installation.
And that's going to be ready when? So we can plan our trip.
4 weeks. Actually, there's there's a very great exhibition by Jane Withers, Water Pressure. It's about water pressure around the globe. And in there we have a small version already, and the big one for the yard will be hopefully ready soon.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes. And another thing about tangible and intangible is this notion of that we are nature, but we sometimes forget it, because when we look around, we have perfect walls, we have a perfect flooring, and we forget that everything we eat, everything we breathe, everything we have around us actually is nature. And that project we tried to visualize in a project called Embodied Nature. Basically, when you enter a room, you're turned into an ecosystem. Like we had in total 9 different ecosystems from all over the planet. And the room has cameras to depict each person entering, and is then translating that person into a silhouette of a natural ecosystem. And last but not least, currently one of our babies, well, one of our projects that we really love to work on is called Themis. Themis is working on the realm of digitalization and this idea, what if we can have artificial intelligence fight for nature, basically be the embodiment of nature to go to court and ask for its legal rights. Because in some countries in the world it's already a reality that a river has its rights as a legal subject. So the idea is to have a face represented by an ecosystem, and the face then can go to court, can go to an interview, can be in the news and fight for its own rights. And we did it now with 3 different ecosystems. We did one for the Donauauen, like against the tunnel. So there's a plea why it shouldn't be, why there shouldn't be a tunnel. We did one in Israel for a wadi, talking about that there needs to be a different way to handle nature and to respect it on a different level. And last week, was it last week? We had a Themis talking at the Fundamental Rights Forum here in Vienna. It's like one of the biggest European gatherings on human rights issues, and we had a Themis pleading that human rights are interlinked with nature rights, because if there's no nature, there are no humans. And that's as well this idea of how can we make something intangible more tangible and make it more feasible to approach. Yes.
So I think what we can see is really like this mixture about the using the technology and the craft. So how do you manage to combine the two? I think that's a very interesting, because we've both spoken about the craftsmanship and how important it is to have people who know how to use skills, but then at the same time you're both using a lot of technology. So there's a lot of challenge in that as well, isn't there?
I think that projects like, I don't know if that's something you share, but like in any case, even though we like our final result to be tangible, and by tangible I mean that in most of the cases also for Thomas and Katharina's work, most of the outcomes are really something you can touch. So I think that in any case, the component of being it a digital, an idea that is in our mind, it's common, it's a common ground. So sometimes like that idea translates first into something digital and then can get into reality. Or some other, maybe it's good that it stays in that realm and can communicate more through the technology itself. For sure, we live in a world where it's very important to work with technology and to see how technology can enhance our projects, our storytelling, for instance. And for instance, we have been trying and presenting projects where a layer of augmented reality tells more and in a faster way about what's the project about. And I'm very curious about the digitalization of design itself, but I look at it with a bit of doubt as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm not a 100% enthusiast, but on the other side, I know that as a mother and as a human being, I don't want to leave it all to technology, and I think that it's very important that we designer with this idea of a world where we are touching things, where we are part of the nature, are actually in a very direct way questioning what's the digitalization of things gonna be, and to be there for the world, to help designing this world that is getting the more and more immaterial. Anyhow, knowing that we're always gonna be bounded by our body,
yeah.
Our bodies.
Because however much our world is on meta and on online, we're still very much physical people.
Yeah,
and
even if we forget it.
Even if we forget it. And even when we do want to access the intangible world, we still need a gadget, or we still need a screen or something.
Yeah,
so there's
it's
always
not seamless yet.
Yeah.
And that's also a magic to play with, because like as I see in your work, like this interaction is magical right now, and there's also a lot that ask you to involve your body, to involve your being into participating in it. I want to know more about Themis. I didn't really know. I would like to meet him.
It's not on our website yet because we just didn't manage to put it online. But I agree that technology is there and we should use it as a tool. And in our case, we often collaborate as well with people that can manage certain technologies better than us. Like we have a fantastic programmer that we always collaborate, and he's a magician when it comes to coding and putting things to do what we would like that it does. But in the end, for us, technology is a tool to actually either surprise someone or to make it possible that suddenly an ecosystem can talk to us and maybe we listen to it.
Well, for you, it's a lot about the interaction as well, isn't it?
And the interaction, exactly.
Because a lot of your projects really require one to kind of like get near or find out. I mean, there's a lot of projects that you've done over the years, a lot of installations where it's really about getting close for something to happen. So you need that kind of, the technology is a kind of invitation in a way.
Exactly, and there we really enjoy when people go beyond this point of, okay, where's the sensor? And it's very interesting that...
I've done that more than once.
No, but...
Where are they hiding it?
I think once we actually embrace technology, that we don't question how does everything function, but it can go then into the content and why the work actually... And the project does this and that, and I completely understand why people are curious, and I embrace that. But I think as well nowadays that I think we should be able to dig then into, okay, why does it react to me, and what's the purpose why it reacts to me, and not necessarily, there's a sensor, now it's blinking. So we tried in the projects normally when we put technology that it's there as this magic component that you actually can have an experience. Because if a project reacts to you, it's a sort of respectfulness at the same time, because it takes you as an audience and says, hello, I realize you're there. It's nice that you're here. So I react. I feel like it's a game then, and their technology can be magic.
So how do you decide how much technology and how much physical or craft or handwork? So, because that's also a kind of a balance, isn't it?
For us, yes. I mean, that's the biggest problem we have partly with Themis, because for us it's important that it can still be in a museum and has a body, and it's something like a stone or has a surface. And the more digital you get, it's harder to be tangible at the same time. But for other projects, we normally have a concept, and then we really see what's appealing, and then we try to put in the technology. Or we know a few details about the technology, and then we try to...
So you would say you start first with how do you make the idea or the concept physical, and then you try and work out how technology can help you in doing that.
Achieving it. And we are so naive believing you can do anything.
Well, you seem to have got quite far though with your belief, so you have achieved quite a bit.
Yeah, touch iron. Let's see.
And do you think, Francesca, do you think it's also a question of who your public is when you're talking about technology? Because I think it's interesting how you said before that the No Country for Old Men is, on one side it's too brave for a commercial company, and it's too kind of crazy for companies, more traditional companies that do. So it's also very much who your audience is, yeah? And do you find that technology, there's like, depending on who you're talking to, you have to put in more or less technology?
Absolutely. I think all the work we do can be read at very different levels. It's really up to the, sorry, pass me the term, but how sexy it is for your audience to approach. So, for instance, when you speak of topics that are not sexy, you need to make them accessible. Beauty help people to approach something. They might notice only after that is something quite disturbing you are confronting them with. But we need that sort of, trigger. We need to approach people, and I think that for us, the media of furniture in a way, or installation, but we are in love. We are speaking of people in love with objects, and I think that the object is an object because it goes closer to people. They are like what we use on a daily basis. It's something that is more visceral than a painting on a wall, right? It's something that speaks to all of us, and of course also technology right now and from now onwards is going to be more and more like our daily thing. It's going to be part of the equation. So yes, the right audience, the right time. Design takes a lot of we call it luck, right?
Yeah. You need a bit of luck as well.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, this idea of the fact that you say that the objects is something that we feel very close and related to. Yeah,
also the size of it. Like, for instance, I didn't study architecture because I thought it would be a dictatorial creation, right? And whereas like objects, they are kind of our size. We can get intimate with them. We can like confront ourselves against them. So it's very interesting media to speak of.
And there's a lot of objects which do have a bit of technology in them, and then they get very obsolete quite quickly. So how is that something that either of you, do you have experience with projects that you have made where there was a technology that became obsolete too quickly, or how should that be designed? How can you plan for that? Is there a way to plan?
Well, I think it should be planned, like designed much better. Like for us, even this idea of LEDs that are not I don't know, I'm like, why is Osram or Philips not coming up with a replaceable LED system? You always have this whole component with a whole, but that's maybe not our call because we don't feel like hardcore industrial designers, but I really feel there would be a need. So, yes, I think politics and industry need to react, but yeah, I mean, you can say as well from a lot of furniture pieces that are still fully functioning are obsolete because we just we don't need huge cabinets anymore.
No, there's other things.
Not everyone has a castle where to put it.
Running out of space there as well.
So I think probably it's not always necessarily
it's not
the
just
technology.
No, I think you've said something very, very correct. It's not just the technology that gets obsolete. There's a lot of stories behind the objects that get obsolete, and there's a lot of objects that absolutely make no sense anymore in our everyday life.
But also maybe like this is a question like the journalists usually love. So how to make something timeless? Like, does it make sense to be timeless, or does it make sense to speak of a time? Right, like certain things. I hope Themis in 100-year time is going to tell us a different story, and it's not really about the medium, but it's about the message itself. And
but I actually think that. Sorry, allow me this. I believe that timeless objects are the ones that really made sense in the time, and then they tell a story later.
Of course.
Because if we think about even in art or architecture, the things that we still value are the ones that are very specific to a certain period and tell us. So I think this idea of timeless is actually it's correct, but it's misinterpreted a lot of the time.
And is the idea that it's gonna last longer, and the medium through it's gonna be played, or the body itself can evolve and change, right?
So, in my list of questions, there's artificial intelligence. I think it's a hot topic, which we're still all very confused about. But you both admitted that you enjoy writing texts more since we have artificial intelligence. So I think that's also an aspect of making ideas tangible, and it's part of technology. So what is, Francesca, you start, what is your relationship with AI? With AI.
Yeah, that's what I confessed straight away. Like, I'm not a verbal person. I went into design because I thought, I'm never going to write anymore.
Okay, so we have to maybe let me explain this, because for anyone who is not into design, you just think you don't need to write. Why would you need to write in design?
You know.
Because people like me constantly ask designers, can you please write a few sentences on your work? Can you please explain it? So you actually end up doing a lot of writing, especially to convince
and also
the
speaking,
clients.
I was expecting not to. Of course, every project needs to be written and so on.
So actually, you need to know how to, or you need to write often. Let's put it this way.
And it made my life easier. I mean, that's not. I wouldn't ask ChatGPT to write important text for me, but on the day-to-day, like handling studio or asking for certain, like, for official things, and it's very good in checking the contracts. It's actually very good. It's much better and much faster than a lawyer, because they got a lot
I hope there are no lawyers in here who are going to get
strongly
upset.
suggested.
And what about you, Katharina?
Well, I have my dialogues about writing text now with ChatGPT, I have to admit. But then I always alter it because it's too marketing language from myself. But yeah, I think we it's going to be interesting, because I feel like we have to be careful to use it like it should be, like a tool, like a digital servant, and be careful that it's not overrunning us and doing the great job, and we just feed the paper to the printer and the electricity from the plug. So I think it's really to handle it, to find a way to handle it in a good way. Like it's any tool.
Exactly, but that's what you've been...
I'm terrified when I look at, actually, like I spoke of ChatGPT, because that's, for me, it's like, the arm that I don't have, like, and I'm terrified at looking at, like the results of actually like Mid-Journey or softwares that develop images. And that's not sexy at all for me, because like I love the thrill of not knowing where a project is gonna head to. Or I really love this idea of through layers of possibilities, testing, imagining, building a story. And to me, to see a render of this like hyper digital reality is really scary. So I can imagine that that can be very sexy for someone who doesn't have a background in making, into 3D, into illustrating, into drawing. It's actually very interesting to be able, through just a phrase, to get a visual result. Whereas for me, it's scary that there's no consequences, there's no, like, nothing is not taking into account the reality of things, and it gets
so
the
what you're missing is
away.
the process, is the or the
I'm
evolution.
missing everything. I don't like the result, like the
end,
visual result also of it.
But in the end, you're not going to sit on the image of a chair.
No.
Somebody still has to then be able to build it or bring it somewhere or be able to manufacture it. So that's why I'm
not yet.
Not yet.
I'm
Not yet.
partly not so afraid of the visuals, because of course you can bombard social media with more and more images, but in the end, you cannot put it in your, I mean, you can put it in your house, but it's hard to sit on it. So I feel like, I think we have to be careful to not lose this creativity to the machines. Mm-hmm. But in the end, like we all still have to test it, use it, and actually look at the legs and feel like this is not going to hold a 90-kilo person, because it's just you're gonna fall on your ass.
But I think it's a little bit also what happened when the first renderings came, yeah? And as renderings got better and better, suddenly there were objects. What I find also is interesting is like there were objects which were made up,
only existing
online, and they looked amazing. And then actually from these renderings, people actually did real things. Mm-hmm. So there's, for example, the petal chair, which is very famous because it was visually.
Earlier, Oraito made a fortune in like rendering fake brands and
exactly.
Yeah.
So I think I always find it's very interesting when something which is like first in real life, then it goes digital, and then it comes back in real life in a new way. So I think, as you say, this idea of using it as a tool, it gives then a lot of potential.
And I actually even think that the truth and the reality and meeting people in real and touching things in real will be more important, because you cannot fake it. I mean, in the future we're going to discuss, is it now real, is it fake? There will be, I guess, digital forensics to actually figure out if a video is real or if the speech or the voice is by the real person. So I think it's going to end up that we meet more real people again.
Because it's more important to touch and feel it and be sure that it's...
Because you trust
you're sure it's you that you talk to and not somebody like... I think actually maybe it's a nice move, because it's going to be more realistic in the end, after a whole detour probably. That's what I think.
And why is it so important to give objects the stories? Because you're both talking about, in embedding a story or explaining something through the objects and giving it narrative. And a lot of the time you just think, why can I not just have, a chair that works and a glass which is simple? And, sometimes there's a little bit of kind of like, is there too much storytelling in an object? Are we are we overdoing it?
For me, it really depends on, again, the target. When they ask you to design a hand knotting in Nepal carpet, why would you just want to do something beautiful? It needs to speak of a story. It needs to. Whereas on the other side, to me, when an object must be a chair, it should be as functional as possible. It should be as sustainable as possible. I should be able to substitute part, change the textile. It should be made to the point, but then for me, their emotion is a big part, play a big role for me. So that's the same emotion I want to convey. I'd like to see it in the final object. And I really love when the people I work with, and it was a story I was telling to Katharina today. I'm working with public, metal furniture. They do big numbers, and they are very sturdy, manly, from Bergamo, and very hard workers and technical people. And it was so beautiful when they said, I got emotion I got moved by the chair. We are making the metal soft, and it's completely unexpected, and we are doing something innovative. And that's the sort of passion. It doesn't need to tell a long story. It's something that I would love to find in the bar under my house, and it's a well-made product, and it's made with heart in Bergamo. So it really depends.
How do you see it, Katharina?
I think there's space for both, for objects with a lot of stories. I mean, I think every object has a story. Sometimes it's just easier to understand it and see it and appreciate it, and sometimes it's more obvious, but I think there's space enough for both and all, and I'm not sure. I think it needs to fit the characters of who comes up with that shape, that chair, that something, whether there should be a lot of story. I mean, some people manage very simple to say a lot of things, and others need a lot of words, and both can be beautiful. I don't know.
Yeah. So let's see if anyone has any questions for you, shall we? We're very happy to get any questions from the public. If anyone feels because what we can also do is move on to next door, and you can still ask questions with a glass of wine in your hand. But I thought maybe some of you have a question which is important for everyone to hear.
Shall I break the ice, maybe?
Yes,
okay,
please, Nicola.
Thanks. So, if we're talking about making the intangible tangible, right? So, if I think about intangible values that maybe we want to put to the forefront, because we don't want technology to replicate the world maybe as it is with, some bad things like sustainability, inclusiveness, feminism. Does it make sense for a designer to design with these things in mind? Does it make sense to talk about an inclusive armchair, a feminist lamp? Does it make sense for you?
We are human beings before being designers, and the values we have, we carry out throughout all our practice. So it's very important for me. These are questions I have my personal missions, and I know I wake up every day trying and do the best to achieve it. And it doesn't. I don't have to tell the Zanotta that chair is inclusive. I just told them it's beautiful and it can fit both an Asian market and American one. But I know deep inside that is made with the criteria I carry out every day in my practice. So sometimes you declare it. So there are certain projects. I'm thinking of Themis. Themis is highly political, and it's really to giving a voice to nature. And some other, maybe you just bring the politics in through the practice just by being, just by living it. So
I think especially when it comes to, I would say then as well, more industrial design and architecture and things around us, I think everything is a statement in the end. If you have a ramp for a wheelchair in front of a shop, in front of a museum, it actually talks a different language than if you don't have a ramp. maybe you don't consider it in the first place, but I think it's the same. If you look at public transport, how easy is it possible to go with little kids or not? Can you enter? Are you excluded? I think it's all the things you don't consider when it works smoothly that are normally well done. And when you're actually annoyed by it, you figure out, well, it's not well made, well designed, well thought through. And I think everything we put in the world can hopefully make it slightly better. And in that sense, if you have more chairs that are inclusive, and if you have more things that are sustainable, even if it doesn't shout out loud, hey, I'm more sustainable than the rest, it's each a little step towards hopefully better objects, better things, better societies.
It's very much about the details. So I think, to answer your question, I think it doesn't have to be like, I'm thinking about the T-shirts of Moschino. This is not a T-shirt, or this is a feminist chair. I think it's just very much in the little details. Like, we don't go around the world, none of us do, screaming our values. But I think when every choice that we make, the values do affect the choice. And when you're making so many choices in designing, then obviously, even just this leather or the other leather, or what material is it, I think. There's a lot of values that you choose
also
over.
In my practice, like when I need, like for instance, the project We Mediterranean is a political project, and it's something completely different, but there's the same process behind, basically, and it's really about being in dialogue with. We usually work for a commission. Is it for a brand? Is it for a museum, an institution? And in that case, it's for a collective voice. And it's probably more difficult to give a collective a voice and to close the circle. But that's. Of course, that fulfills a certain personal need in a higher level. But on the other side, I like to think that whatever I do, I try to do it in my ethical way, which might not be everyone's. So, yeah.
Any other questions? We have a very shy audience. Well, then I think we can, yes, I'd like to thank Katharina, I'd like to thank you, Francesca.
Thank you.
And,
Thanks for having us here.
Very nice, and we look forward to speaking to you in person, next to a drink, holding something in our hands, and seeing your work in the next room.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Maybe I just say one thing of a project I didn't really present. So is two of the work about inclusivity, and one of the two is a catalog. It's gonna look for you like a normal IKEA catalog. It's actually a research project that was done over the course of 3 years about dementia. And about giving tangibility to things. I already knew that it was impossible to design dementia-friendly furniture and get it produced. So the project done with Lecker Architect and with Lien Foundation was actually, the idea is to make more approachable the topic through, there's a lot of stories of caregiver, of dementia patients, as well as tips and tricks to leave the home, and it's all hacked through IKEA furniture. So in a way, the tangibility of it is the catalog itself and not products. So where we don't get through our product, we can get through other medias. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have
안녕하십니까.
Guten Morgen und hallo. Buenos días.
Namaste.
Bom dia!
Please enjoy a chat over food and wine in the other room and Francesca's exhibition. Thank you very much to all for coming, and thank you Alice, Francesca and Katharina.
Painful, eh? No?
No.
This part.